In the third and final part of the Hinduism Iceberg series, we'll discuss the obscure stories and concepts that are not mainstream and sometimes even considered fringe or heterodox in nature. Stay tuned till the very end as we plunge into the final two levels of the iceberg, where I'll uncover mind blowing stories and bizarre urban legends that will completely transform the way you see the world. You won't want to miss these revelations. Without further ado, let's start right away. The first two things that come across our mind upon hearing the word Tantra is either sex or black magic. In India, these practices are sometimes associated with what is colloquially termed as witchcraft, aimed at influencing or controlling reality in ways that seem mysterious. And while we'll explore these two tantric ideas as well, it is first important to understand the complex spiritual tradition of Tantra, which is not just part of Hinduism but plays a major role in Buddhism as well. The word Tantra is derived from the Sanskrit root tan, meaning to expand, weave, or stretch. It refers to a wide array of esoteric teachings. Esoteric here means very unusual and understood or liked by only a small number of people. Tantra emphasizes the interconnectedness of the universe, the body, and the consciousness. It often revolves around the interplay of Shiva, which is considered as the pure consciousness, and Shakti, which is considered to be his primordial energy. This dynamic is seen as the fundamental duality that pervades the universe, and the aim is to harmonize or unite these forces within oneself. And unlike some ascetic traditions, particularly Vedic schools of thoughts, Tantra views the body and material existence not as obstacles but as tools for spiritual development. While we often think the body is simple and the mind is all that matters, it's not quite that straightforward. The body, in its wisdom, has the ability to take care of itself. It doesn't need you to run the thousands of complex biological operations running beneath your skin. But can you see the same about your mind and soul? Are they nurturing themselves with the same natural ease? This perspective invites us to reconsider our relationship with our physical selves. Instead of viewing the body as inferior to the mind, we can recognize its innate wisdom and simplicity. By doing so, we open ourselves to a more holistic understanding of spirituality, one that embraces both the physical and the metaphysical aspects of our existence. The body is considered a microcosm of the universe, and by understanding it, one can comprehend the cosmos itself. Every being has three types of bodies. At the base is the causal body, which is the spiritual body, also known as the soul. Covering that is the subtle body, which is the astral body. This body is made up of subtle elements that are not physical or material. It is composed of mind, intellect, vital breaths, and the vital life force. And then there's the gross body, which we see, which is made up of the five elements known as earth, air, water, fire, and ether. So, Tantra specifically focuses on the subtle body and the energy centers known as chakras. These chakras align along the spine, each representing different physical, emotional, and spiritual states. The word chakra means wheel, symbolizing how energy spins within these centers. There are 7 main chakras at the base of the spine to the ground. Each chakra is associated with specific elements, colors, and functions. And then there are channels or nadis, which carry the prana or the life force throughout the body, similar to how veins carry blood. There are 72,000 nadis, but 3 primary ones are the moon energy or the left channel, the right channel, which is the sun energy, and the central channel. The balance of these nadis is crucial for spiritual and physical well-being. And every subtle body has this dormant spiritual energy, which is known as Kundalini. It is coiled at the base of the spine. When awakened through meditation or yoga, this energy travels up to the chakras, leading to the higher state of consciousness. The process is believed to bring about spiritual enlightenment and deep awareness. Awakening Kundalini is considered a profound spiritual event. but it requires careful guidance, as improper awakening can lead to physical, emotional, or psychological disturbances. The interaction between chakras, nadis, and kundalini energy is central to the tantric school, and sometimes even in a lot of yogic practices as well. But how does one do that? There are several practices, often including the use of sacred sounds, which are the mantras, and the geometric designs, which are the yantras, along with elaborate rituals as well. These tools are used to invoke specific energies or deities and to focus the mind during meditation. Tantric practices are broadly classified into two types, the left hand and the right hand. The right hand path is the Dakshin Marg or the Southern Marg, and the left hand path is known as the Vama Marg or Vamachar. The right hand path focuses on more orthodox rituals. Practicing yoga, breathing techniques, and meditation can help activate Kundalini. Moreover, maintaining a positive attitude and living in greater awareness can also help awaken the Kundalini. The left hand path involves more unorthodox practices, including ritualistic engagement with taboo elements such as alcohol, meat, and sexuality. This is meant to transcend the duality of the right and wrong in order to reach higher state of consciousness. Some say that signs of Kundalini awakening include crisis, severe health problems, or a feeling that life is not quite right. We'll talk about more of these taboo practices when we discuss the Aghori Babas and the Naga Sadhus. But it is important to understand many people associate Tantra solely with sexual practices. But this is only a small aspect of the tradition within the left hand path. In reality, Tantra covers a broad range of spiritual practices. In today's age, people conveniently leave aside the profound, difficult spiritual purpose of Tantra and handpick conveniently the left hand path to indulge in the pleasure of the self. Its holistic view, which incorporates the body, energy, and mind, continues to resonate with both the traditional and the modern spiritual seekers, especially due to the various subsects within Tantra or the Kaulas. But before exploring those, I want to talk about the mind-boggling school of Kashmir Shaivism, also known as Trika Shaivism. In the beautiful valleys of Kashmir, nestled among the snow-capped Himalayas, a profound spiritual tradition blossomed thousands of years ago. This tradition offers a captivating vision of reality that sees the entire universe as a manifestation of divine consciousness. At its heart, Kashmir Shaivism asserts that Shiva is the supreme deity. But there are two primary schools of Shaivism, three if you consider the Lingayat sect as well. One being Kashmir Shaivism, second is the Shaiv Siddhant, which is the most widely followed tradition throughout the Shaivism sect. It is a dualistic school and it sees Shiva as a deity residing in some faraway realm, meaning it views the soul, which is the Atman, as distinct from Shiva, the supreme god. The soul seeks union with Shiva through devotion, bhakti, rituals, and discipline. In this tradition, you work towards merging with Shiva. In contrast, Kashmir Shaivism is non-dualistic or rather monistic. It teaches that you are already one with Shiva. You just need to realize it. You don't need to merge because the oneness is already there, hidden beneath the surface. Here, Shiva symbolizes universal consciousness, the ground of all beings. Everything in the universe is seen as a manifestation or a play of Shiva's divine energy known as Shakti. This dynamic interplay between Shiva, the pure consciousness, and Shakti, the creative energy, is the basis of the entire cosmos. In Shaiv Siddhant, you are like a river flowing towards the ocean of Shiva to eventually merge. In Kashmir Shaivism, you can think of Shiva as the ocean and the universe, including all the people, objects, and experiences, as waves on this ocean. The waves seem distinct, but they are always part of the same ocean. Similarly, everything in existence is seen as an expression of the divine consciousness, even though it may appear separate. When a pot is made of clay, the pot may seem as a distinct object, but it is clay after all. Even before it was molded into a pot, it was clay. It's clay also as a pot, and it will be clay even if we break the pot apart. In the same sense, Shiva is the essence of the entirety of creation. This concept is somewhat similar to Advaita Vedanta in that both traditions assert that the ultimate oneness of existence. More on that in a moment. The exact origins of Kashmir Shaivism are shrouded in mystery, more so because it is an esoteric tradition, much like Tantra. In fact, Kashmir Shaivism is a part of the Tantra philosophy, the way Advaita is a part of the Vedanta philosophy, or other schools like Mimamsa or Samkhya are a part of the Vedic philosophy. Also, one couldn't learn Kashmir Shaivism unless one was initiated by a guru, because it has advanced mantras and practices. As a distinct philosophical school, it began to take shape around the 8th and the 9th century in the Kashmir region of northern India. This was a time of great intellectual and spiritual ferment in Kashmir. The region was a melting pot of various philosophical and religious traditions, including Tantra, Buddhism, and other different schools of Hinduism. And out of this rich cultural potluck, Kashmir Shaivism emerged as a unique synthesis. Some of the most influential thinkers of this period include Vasugupta, who is credited with receiving the revelation of the Shiva Sutras, a foundational text. Perhaps the most renowned philosopher of this tradition is Abhinav Gupta or Abhinav Gupta. Abhinav Gupta is to Kashmir Shaivism the way Adi Shankaracharya is to Advaita Vedanta. His work of Tantra Lok has been the basis of the philosophy ever since, and even modern proponents of this philosophy consider him to be the go-to source for all texts. Laleshwari or Lal Ded is to Shiva the way Mirabai is to Krishna. Each had a divine form of bhakti to their Ishta that is unparalleled in history. Laleshwari brought the esoteric teachings of Kashmir Shaivism to the masses, making them accessible through her poetry. As a female mystic in a largely patriarchal society, she became a symbol of spiritual empowerment for women. Her works are considered the foundation of modern Kashmiri poetry, and even today, every modern Kashmiri sings Laleshwari's hymns while putting their children to bed. Just check the famous Bukkus Bukkus song. These thinkers and others developed a sophisticated philosophical system. Kashmir Shaivism refers to Shiva as Prakash or light, and he is the pure consciousness, the be-all and end-all, while Vimarsh or reflection is the self-reflective aspect of this consciousness, or Shiva's awareness of himself. It's like looking into a mirror. The reflection is both you and not you at the same time. So, Shiva is the Prakash, the light, while the universe is the Vimarsh, his reflection. This consciousness isn't just aware, it's also creative. It has the power to manifest itself in infinite ways, much like how a dreamer creates entire worlds within their minds. The tradition calls this creative power Shakti, often personified as the divine feminine counterpart to Shiva. And Shiva and Shakti are inseparable. Consciousness and its creative power are the two aspects of the same reality. It is important to understand that despite being seen as a Vimarsh or a reflection, the universe is not a mere illusion. Rather, it's a real expression of divine consciousness. The goal is not to dismiss the world, but to recognize that the world and all experiences are manifestations of Shiva. It sees the act of creation not as a fall from perfection, but as a joyful, spontaneous expression of the divine. Moreover, the universe is not static, but it is in a constant state of vibration or pulsation. This vibration is the divine energy and it is known as Spanda. Spanda flows through everything. You can think of it like music or sound waves, unseen but always present and affecting everything. The ultimate goal of Kashmir Shaivism is Pratyabhijna, or to recognize that you are not separate from the divine. This is akin to the wave realizing that it is part of the ocean. And the means to recognize this are through meditation, contemplation, mantra recitations, visualizations, and yoga. The realization that we are manifestations of the game dissolves the ego and the weight of daily struggles. Once the ego's demands fade, we have nothing to prove or fear. just the vastness of the game to experience. There's no ceiling, no floor, the world feels boundless, yet we are aware that our time as entities is fleeting. The game continues as it always has and always will, while we are temporary presences within it, here to enjoy the bliss of existence. And as we talk about Kashmir Shaivism, it is hard not to talk about Advaita Vedanta, the other comparatively more widely known school of non-dualism. Here's an oversimplified comparison chart highlighting the key differences and similarities between Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. Please note that this is just a basic chart for anyone looking to explore the schools of non-dualism. There are many nuances in each of them which are impossible to fit in a short video. Hence, take it with a pinch of salt, and if you are more interested in either, I have links in the description below to guide you further. In Advaita Vedanta, Brahman is the ultimate, formless, supreme reality. In Kashmir Shaivism, Shiva is the supreme consciousness, both formless and the manifest. In Advaita Vedanta, the world is falsified due to Maya. I have spoken at length about Maya in the previous section. In Kashmir Shaivism, the world is real, usually made from Shakti, also seen as Vimarsh or a reflection of the divine consciousness or Shiva. In Advaita Vedanta, we are all part of the divine Leela because the world is Maya and everything is just a divine play of the Brahman or the supreme consciousness. In Kashmir Shaivism, the world is real but is still seen as a play of the Shakti, the divine cosmic energy, which is a part of Shiva as well. In Advaita Vedanta, the Atman is identical with the Brahman. In Kashmir Shaivism, the individual self or the Jeev is a manifestation of Shiva. So both equate the individual self with the universal self. In Advaita Vedanta, the path to liberation is through knowledge or Gyan and self-realization, along with detachment from Maya. Again, in Kashmir Shaivism, the path to liberation is self-realization, that we are all nothing but manifestations of Shiva himself. This is known as Pratyabhijna. The concept of ignorance is seen as the root of bondage in both Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. In Advaita Vedanta, God's creative power or divine energy known as Yog Maya is the reason for the entire creation. In Kashmir Shaivism, Shakti, which is inseparable from Shiva, is the energy for the entire divine creation. Advaita Vedanta sees Brahman or the supreme reality as Nirgun and Nirakar, which is pure consciousness without any attributes. In Kashmir Shaivism, Shiva is the universal consciousness and it is both static and dynamic. The key texts of Advaita Vedanta are the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita. In Kashmir Shaivism, it is Spandakarika, Shiva Sutra and Pratyabhijna Hridayam. The most famous proponent of Advaita Vedanta is Adi Shankaracharya, while Abhinav Gupta is seen as the most famous proponent of Kashmir Shaivism. Both emphasize on meditation for self-realization, and liberation or moksha is seen as the ultimate goal in both schools of thoughts. One clear distinction between Kashmir Shaivism and Advaita Vedanta is the concept of Maya. When you realize that the world is Maya or a matrix, you take the red pill and move outside from it, similar to detachment. That is Neo's path or the Vedant's path. You do your karma without any wish for rewards. But people often confuse detachment and non-attachment, which even I regret I have thrown around interchangeably throughout the video. They think detachment is not loving anyone and not caring about others. What it actually means is non-attachment. Let's say you have a pet cat. Detachment is not loving your cat. Non-attachment is not being attached to that emotion. You will still love your cat and love her well, but you are not attached to the act of loving, which binds you down to Maya. In Kashmir Shaivism, you realize that the world is a Vimarsha from Shakti's energy. It's real, it's not Maya. But you have to transcend this world as well. You cannot be stuck in an endless loop of birth, death and rebirth. So you enjoy the world the same way Shiva enjoys it. So while Advaita Vedanta has a more, I wouldn't say existential or nihilistic exactly, but a vairagya, a non-attached stoic approach to the world. Kashmir Shaivism, on the other hand, has a more absurdist approach to the world, or rather, a Truman approach to break free. And the left hand methods of Tantra are also part of it, which can even be called a more hedonistic approach, where concepts like brahmacharya are not pushed on people, but people are allowed to have the pleasures of life. Of course, in either of them, nothing is done for the pleasure of the ego, but realization that all the pleasures and the pain are nothing but dedicated to the Supreme Being Himself. Although the tradition of Kashmir Shaivism declined in its homeland after the advent of Islam in the region, its teachings have continued to inspire seekers and thinkers. In fact, I would even say that the Sufi school of Islam has quite a few similarities with Kashmir Shaivism. However, mainstream Islam would not really find this appealing, but again, Sufis have a different lens of viewing the world than the modern day conventional Muslim. I have spoken more about it on my Twitter, so do check it out. And this non dualistic approach is hard for us to digest in the world that we live in. How can Shiv be in the Kashmiri Pandits who lost their lives? And how can Shiv be inside the Islamic terrorists who took their lives? Why even put up a fight with anyone when everyone is the same energy of God? In the Advaita Vedanta section, I gave the analogy of the Atman being an individual cell and Brahman being an entire being composed of the trillions of individual cells. This highlights the concept of Tattvamasi, where everyone is that. While the analogy is not 100% accurate, because technically your self needs a trillion cells to be you, the Supreme Consciousness does not need individual consciousness to be Him. He is Swatantra, or free from us, as is said in Kashmir Shaivism and also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. And I have no clear answer to how God can be both in the victim and perpetrator. But I will try making some sense of all the violence we see around. Of course, we have karma to take into account. Karma of not just this life, but thousands of lifetimes for all the suffering. But it doesn't sound so convincing. So for a moment, keeping that aside, let's continue with the analogy of cells and the human body. Consider every cell in your body as a Jeev of this world or the individual soul. Your body does not sustain with all your cells living in harmony and playing ringa ringa roses together all the time. Every minute, your body is attacked by thousands of bacteria, viruses, and other germs looking to harm you. Every minute, an army of cells is fighting to keep you fit and fine in order for your sense organs to function. And these viruses, while being inside your body, are still a part of you. They are as much you as the cells that protect you from you. Even your blood needs to be purified constantly by your heart. The duality of black and white, good and evil, yin and yang, are the two sides of the same coin. So maybe, just maybe, the victims that fight against the perpetrators have as much God within them as the ones inflicting pain. Of course, this doesn't mean that one should join the dark side of the forces. This is just my limited understanding of how to make sense of all the adharma and the intensity of Kali Yuga around us. The core of non-duality is compassion, but it's not always easy to practice. As Eric Weiner aptly says in his book Man Seeks God, compassion is not some slobbery emotion, but rather a skill, like playing a piano or crocheting. Love without wisdom is ineffective, and to a degree self-indulgent. Indeed, it's one thing to feel compassion for all sentient beings while meditating peacefully, and quite another to maintain the same compassion when someone cuts you off in the rush hour traffic. To cultivate this compassion, we can turn to a Buddhist exercise that resonates across all dharmic religions, rooted in the concepts of reincarnation and Sansara. Try imagining every person you encounter as your mother from a previous lifetime. Given the cycle of rebirth, we may have experienced thousands or even millions of lives before reaching moksha. In this vast tapestry of existence, the odds make it plausible that every individual crossing your path could have been your mother in some form. Perhaps as a cow, a queen ant, a lioness, or a beggar in a remote village looking to take care of you. That person who just cut you off in traffic or that rude waiter might have been your child in another lifetime. This perspective can make it easier to see others as manifestations of ourselves, aligning with the non-dual philosophies of Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. These schools of thought propose a unified view of the sansara that becomes more comprehensible when we consider our interconnectedness through countless lifetimes. When your knee hurts, your hand automatically reaches for it because it's all part of the same body. Similarly, when we realize that we are all one collective being, we can help others without conscious thought, without even considering it as helping. This realization transforms compassion from a deliberate act into an instinctive response, reflecting the true essence of non-duality. If you have any other analogies or ideas, please share them in the comments. I would love to know these non-dualistic views better. And if you have made it this far, consider subscribing to my channel. It will take 2 seconds and you can support all the immense time and hard work I've put into researching and writing and editing this series. So that was Kashmir Shaivism, which is an invitation to dance with the divine, to play in the waves of consciousness, and to recognize the face of Shiva in every face we meet. The consumption of cannabis by a certain group of sadhus, known as the holy ascetics, and the use of bhang, which is a preparation made from the leaves of the cannabis plant, has some cultural roots in India, especially within specific Shaiva traditions, though it is often misunderstood or simplified in popular culture. Firstly, there is no clear rule or history on it. There are places and cultures where it's common and other places where it is frowned upon. You are simply not going to find a definitive answer on whether one should or should not consume cannabis. My definitive guess is that far more people don't use it than use it. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it is mentioned, Siddhis are born of practices performed in previous births or by herbs, mantra repetition, asceticism, or by samadhi. The commentators have not explicitly stated the herb that was used. But since time eternity, cannabis, marijuana, dhatura, or similar herbs have been used as painkillers and for other medicinal purposes as well. Shiva doesn't consume bhang or any other drugs according to official scriptures as well. He doesn't need to. In fact, a lot of scriptures say that Indra and other devatas residing in the Swargalok consume som or wine, which was a stimulant to enhance their performance during their battles against the Asuras. And of course, the Asuras do the same as well, not just during battles but as a pastime too. Shiva is often seen as a lord of the outcasts, people who live on the fringes of the society, and over the years he has been labeled as the lord of the thieves, dacoits, and even the evil people, because Shiva does not see good and evil as separate. He has been worshipped by both with equal penance. The ascetics in the Himalayas who often worship Shiv live in cold, harsh climates with minimal clothing or in fact no clothing at all in the case of Naga sadhus. Marijuana was a source to numb the external discomfort and focus their mind on meditation solely. For them, cannabis or marijuana is not merely a recreational drug, but a sacrament that aids in meditation, prayer, and self-discipline. Their only goal is to achieve spiritual liberation, and these intoxicants help them. Think of spiritual liberation like walking on a road of thorns barefoot. Marijuana or cannabis becomes the shoes that would help one survive on that road of thorns. With time, these stuff became offerings not just by the ascetics like the Aghoris and the Naga sadhus, but even within the masses. And it became a shortcut way to experience what liberation could possibly feel like. But again, it's one thing beating the game on your own and another thing to to use cheat codes and beat the game. You might find it fun in the early days, but what happens when you use only cheat codes to survive the game? You lose interest. Your skill levels might seem bloated, but they are actually much less compared to someone who has beaten the game without the help of cheat codes. Anyway, Shiva is often seen as an embodiment of detachment and asceticism. His association with cannabis could be more metaphoric, symbolizing the transcendence of physical pleasures and the ability to remain unaffected by the material world. The use of cannabis by the ascetics might have been inspired by this association as a way to emulate their deity himself. Over time, cultural and spiritual associations have been simplified or misinterpreted, leading to a more widespread non spiritual use of cannabis among the general population. And for many, the justification of indulgence, even though the original context was deeply spiritual, is just another convenient way to indulge for the pleasure of one's own ego. Hinduism and Tantra in particular encompass various mystical and esoteric schools. Among these are the Aghoris, Naga sadhus, and other lesser known traditions. These schools often operate on the fringes of mainstream Hinduism, shrouded in mystery and intrigue. The Aghoris are a sect of ascetic Shaivites known for their unconventional and extreme practices. They seek to transcend the limitations of the physical world and attain a state of enlightenment that goes beyond conventional notions of purity and impurity. Aghoris often reside in cremation grounds, meditating on death and using human skulls as drinking vessels and ritual items. This practice symbolizes their transcendence over the fear of death and the material world itself. They are also infamous for consuming human flesh as a part of their rituals. This practice is believed to be a powerful method of breaking attachments and overcoming societal taboos. Aghori philosophy is rooted in Advaita, non-dualism, or rather Trika Shaivism, which posits that everything in the universe, whether pure or impure, is a manifestation of the same divine reality. By embracing what is considered impure, they seek to realize the oneness of existence. Aghoris aim to transcend societal norms and personal attachments, seeing beyond the dualities of life and death, pleasure and pain. Few figures are as striking or enigmatic as the Naga sadhus. These ash smeared, often naked ascetics are the most extreme adherents of the Shaivite tradition, embodying a lifestyle that seems to defy the very bounds of human endurance. The word Naga means naked, while Sadhu refers to a holy man. True to their name, these wandering monks renounce not just material possessions but often clothing itself. Their bodies, dusted with sacred ash, becomes living canvases that tell tales of extreme austerity and unwavering devotion to Lord Shiva. It's the ultimate act of renunciation, giving up not just wealth, property, land, but even the base level clothing. Originally, the Naga tradition emerged as a military wing of ascetics, sworn to protecting Hindu holy sites, temples, and saints during the times of religious conflict, especially after the advent of Islam in India. I mean, just picturize a man covered in full armor, facing up against someone who has given up everything, even the clothes he wears. The sight itself can be terrifying, and it's always hard to beat someone who has nothing to lose. There are several akhadas or monastic orders within the Naga sadhus as well. Today, while their warrior past lingers in the occasional brandishing of weapons, their battles are primarily internal, a constant war against desire, attachment, and the illusion of the material world. The path of a Naga sadhu is not for the faint hearted. Initiates undergo rigorous training, subjecting themselves to extreme physical hardships. They practice intense meditation, often in remote Himalayan caves or cremation grounds. These practices are believed to burn away karmic residues and transcend bodily limitations. Perhaps, most famously, Naga sadhus are associated with the Kumbh Mela, the world's largest religious gathering. Here, millions witness their spectacular processions where they march in their full ash covered glory. It's a sight that seems to belong more to myth than to the modern world. Yet, beneath their fearsome appearance lies a philosophy of profound detachment and inner peace. By renouncing all, they claim to gain everything, the all encompassing Lord. Their lifestyle is a radical challenge to societal norms, a living reminder of alternate paths to spiritual enlightenment. In the age of materialism, the Naga sadhus stand as anachronistic yet compelling figures. They embody the eternal human quest to transcend the mundane, to touch the divine, and to unlock the mysteries of existence. Whether viewed as holy men or eccentrics, their presence continues to fascinate, perplex, and inspire, offering a glimpse into a world where the spiritual trumps the material in the most absolute terms. Tantric sex, just by its name, has very negative connotations. The reason Tantra gets so much flack is because it does not shy away from pleasure, and our general mindset is that something which is pleasurable cannot be religious. But Tantra can transform any action, regardless of how unreligious or taboo it may seem, into a spiritual experience. But it's not just about sex. That's a modern Western misconception. In its essence, Tantra is about transcending duality. It teaches that apparent opposites like male and female, pleasure and pain, sacred and profane, are actually part of a greater unity. And all that experiences are closely related to sex. Tantric practices, including ritualized forms of intimacy, were seen as tools for spiritual growth. The goal wasn't physical pleasure, but a profound state of awareness that transcends ordinary consciousness. Take the concept of calm, for instance, a word used to denote desire, pleasure, and love. We often leave aside, conveniently, the love and pleasure and simply mistranslate it as lust. Calm is actually one of the four goals of human life in Hindu philosophy, alongside dharma or duty, prosperity or artha, and moksha or liberation. The famous text Kama Sutra, often reduced to its sexual content in popular culture, is actually a comprehensive guide to leading a fulfilling life. It covers topics ranging from finding a life partner to maintaining a harmonious household, with physical intimacy being just one aspect of a much broader philosophy. Tantra sees sex as a way to transcend the ego and the physical limitations. Its purpose is to harness and channel sexual energy, or the Shakti or Kundalini, towards spiritual growth and enlightenment. Shiva represents pure consciousness, while Shakti represents the primordial energy. Tantric sex is symbolically and ritually about the union of these two forces within an individual, leading to a state of cosmic consciousness. Through slow, mindful, and meditative engagement in sexual practices, the aim is to raise the dormant Kundalini energy within at the base of the spine and guide it upwards through the chakras, leading to a spiritual awakening. It emphasizes the spiritual dimensions of intimacy rather than just physical gratification. It involves maintaining focus, prolonging the experience, and directing energy inward. And when it's about sex, one cannot ignore the famous Khajuraho temples, which are a testament to a civilization that was far ahead of its time. Built around 1,000 years ago by the Chandela dynasty, these temples are renowned for their distinctive artwork. You must have seen the images of the erotic sculptures, but they are just a small part of a much larger story. Of the original 85 temples, only 25 remain, each a masterpiece of architectural brilliance. But why the explicit imagery? Contrary to popular belief, these carvings aren't ancient versions of adult entertainment. Instead, they represent a profound philosophy that views life holistically, where the physical and the spiritual realms aren't separate but interconnected parts of the human experience. The Khajuraho temples remind us that in ancient Indian thought, the path to spiritual enlightenment included embracing all aspects of life, and that means human desire as well. These erotic sculptures, while eye-watching, make up only 10% of the temple's artwork. The rest depict everyday life in medieval India: musicians, farmers, teachers, and even acrobats. This comprehensive representation of society suggests that the temples were meant to be a microcosm of the universe itself. And there's more to these temples than meets the eye. They are built on the principles of sacred geometry. During certain times of the year, sunlight illuminates specific sculptures, creating a play of light and shadow that early worshippers might have found awe inspiring. Beyond tantric sex, traditional tantra includes other practices that might seem shocking to modern sensibilities. Kala Jadoo or black magic in tantra refers to occult practices aimed at influencing events, controlling situations, or manipulating people through rituals and mantras. Rooted in ancient traditions, it is often associated with invoking supernatural forces for personal gain or harm to others. Practitioners of black magic and tantra claim to access powers from specific deities or spirits, typically through rituals that might include offerings, invocations, and other esoteric practices. The effectiveness of black magic is highly debated. While some believe in its power due to the anecdotal experiences or cultural influences, others argue that the effects can be often attributed to psychological suggestions or the placebo effect. The belief in black magic can create a sense of fear and anxiety, which in itself can affect a person's perception of reality. In modern times, many so called tantrics exploit these beliefs for monetary purposes, preying on the vulnerable who are seeking solutions to their problems. As a result, the line between genuine spiritual practice and fraudulent activities becomes blurred, leading many people to fall victim to scams in the guise of traditional rituals. While genuine Tantra is a complex spiritual path aimed at self realization, the commercialized version that claims to wield black magic often diverges significantly from its roots. Hinduism, known for its fluidity and diversity, includes stories and concepts that reflect a broad understanding of gender and sexuality as well, including LGBTQ themes. Several ancient stories highlight the idea of gender fluidity and same sex love, as well as the revered status of transgenders in the Indian subcontinent. The most notable one being Shikhandi from the Mahabharata. Shikhandi was in fact a woman in her previous birth known as Amba. Swearing revenge against Bhishma, she is reborn as Shikhandini in her next life. She then becomes a male after agreeing to a sex exchange with a Yaksh. Shikhandi then goes on to play a crucial role in the Kurukshetra war as Bhishma, one of the most powerful warriors on the Kaurav side, refuses to fight against Shikhandi because he saw her as a woman, despite the sex change. Shikhandi's story is often cited as one of the earliest references to transgender identity in Hindu texts. Vishnu, the preserver god, in the Samudra Manthan epic takes the form of Mohini, a beautiful enchanting woman, and tricks the Asuras or the demons. This transformation of a male god into a female form is embraced without any negative connotations. There is also a story in which Shiva falls in love with Mohini, further reinforcing the idea of fluid gender identity and attraction. King Dilip, who had two wives, died without an heir, leaving the kingdom in uncertainty. His two widowed queens sought a way to continue the lineage. They prayed fervently to Lord Shiva, who granted them a boon to have a child together. Through divine intervention, the two queens conceived Bhagirath, and so Bhagirath was the first child to have same-sex parents. He grew up with a sense of purpose, later becoming famous for bringing the Ganga river to earth and liberate his ancestors' soul. The story highlights the acceptance of non-traditional parenthood in ancient times. The Hijras, a community of transgender and intersex individuals, have a unique and respected status in Indian culture. Of course, it is not always respected, and there are several documentaries out there which you can check out. Anyway, the Hijras trace back thousands of years. They are often seen as neither male nor female, but they embody a third gender. They worship the goddess Bahuchar Mata, a deity associated with transgender individuals. And her temple in Gujarat is an important pilgrimage site for them. Hijras are invited to bless weddings and childbirth ceremonies as they are believed to have the power to confer fertility and good luck. This tradition persists even today, despite societal stigma in modern times. According to some legends, Hijras are said to have received blessings from Lord Ram himself. After being abandoned during his exile, the Hijras waited for him for 14 years, and upon his return, Ram blessed them with the ability to bless others in turn, which is why they are invited to auspicious events like weddings and childbirth. In the Rig Veda, there are mentions of the gods Mitra and Varun, who are often depicted together and share a deep bond. Some scholars interpret the relationship as a reflection of same-sex love or companionship. And then there's the famous Ardhanarishwar avatar of Lord Shiva and Parvati, which is one of the most iconic representations of gender fluidity and the unity of the male and female, showing that both are necessary and inseparable in the cosmos. This concept reflects that divinity transcends gender binaries and embodies the balance of masculine and feminine qualities. A similar idea is proposed in the Greek literature of Plato's Symposium as well, which we spoke about earlier in the series, where humans were androgynous with both the male and female in one being. So do check out that story at length. Hinduism offers a wide space for understanding gender and sexuality beyond the binary norm. The concept of happily ever after is often associated with love stories, but the narratives of Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and Lord Shiva in Hindu Purans and legends depict a more complex and profound understanding of love and sacrifice. Despite their divine nature, the lords did not experience the conventional idea of romantic fulfillment with their primary love interest. We already saw the story of Ramayana at the beginning of the iceberg. Lord Ram, the seventh avatar of Vishnu, is often hailed as the epitome of Dharma. His love story with Sita, however, is marked by immense trials and separations. Immediately after their marriage, Ram and Sita faced a 14-year exile in the forest due to the scheming of Ram's stepmother Kaikeyi. During the exile, Sita was kidnapped by the demon king Ravan, leading to a famous battle in which Ram defeated Ravan to rescue her. That is the version which the majority of the people know of, and is a part of the Ramayana written by Valmiki, the original author of the legend. Much later in the 16th century, the Ramcharitmanas was composed by Tulsidas, who used Valmiki's Sanskrit Ramayana as the base and gave a more devotional or bhakti aspect to the story. However, the story of Ram and Sita doesn't end after their return from exile. According to Uttar Ramayana or later Ramayana, after returning to Ayodhya, and despite Sita's purity being proven through a trial by fire or Agni Pariksha, rumors and doubts spread among the subjects of the city. Ram, prioritizing his duty as a king over his personal happiness, reluctantly banished a pregnant Sita to the forest. In some texts, Sita herself was uncomfortable with the gossip about her purity and left Ayodhya for the forest. There, she gave birth to their twin sons Love and Kush. Although the family reunited briefly, Sita ultimately sought refuge in the earth, leaving Ram to rule Ayodhya alone. This story portrays Ram's life as one of sacrifice, showing that his duty as a king or his dharma as a king takes precedence over personal fulfillment or familial life. And he did not get to enjoy a peaceful life with Sita after all the hardships they endured together. Now, there are several discrepancies about Uttar Ramayana or the later Ramayana. Many believe that the Uttar Ramayana is an integral part of the Valmiki Ramayana as well, while others believe it is an interpolation or rather even adulteration of the original Ramayana. Now, if you think that the story ended with the return from exile, then it's a happily ever after for them. But if you take into account the Uttar Ramayana and consider it to be an integral part of the original text, then did Ram and Sita get their happily ever after? Moving on to Lord Krishna, the eighth avatar of Vishnu. He is widely known for his love for Radha, so much that he is also known as Radhe. There still exists significant number of followers of Radharani. Their bond is often considered the highest form of divine love, the kind of platonic love that fairy tales often speak about. However, Krishna and Radha's love story did not culminate in marriage. After coming of age, Krishna left Vrindavan and Radha behind when he was called to fulfill his destiny in Mathura to face off with his maternal uncle Kans and rescue his parents. Later, he and his subjects from Mathura migrated to Dwarka. Despite their deep connection, Krishna never returned to marry Radha. One legend states that Ayan was an ardent devotee of Lord Vishnu, engaging in years of penance. When Vishnu granted him a boon, Ayan chose to marry Lakshmi, Vishnu's consort. So, when Vishnu incarnated as Krishna on earth, Lakshmi accompanied him as Radha. And after Krishna's departure from Vrindavan, Radha married Ayan and fulfilled his boon. Krishna later went on to marry Rukmani, and many legends state that he had over 16,000 wives, all of which were princesses that he rescued from the demon Narkasur. Narkasur had abducted these women and killed their spouses, and after being liberated by Krishna, they had to face societal stigma the same way Sita had to face. In order to avoid that, all these princesses chose Krishna as their husband. While Krishna fulfilled his responsibilities as a husband and protector to these women, his heart remained with Radha, symbolizing that love transcends worldly ties and cannot be confined to conventional relationships. Krishna's story reflects the idea that true love is beyond attachment and possession, and his separation from Radha signifies the spiritual nature of their bond. I have spoken about how friendship, love, sex, and marriage have historically been separate concepts in my video, so feel free to check that out. Lord Shiva is often depicted as a deeply ascetic figure who fell in love with Sati, the daughter of Daksha. Their love was so intense, but at the same time, it faced strong opposition from Daksh, who disapproved of Shiva's unconventional lifestyle. During a grand yagna or sacrifice hosted by Daksha, Sati was humiliated by her father for her devotion to Shiva. Unable to bear the insult, Sati immolated herself in the sacrificial fire. Shiva, overwhelmed with grief and rage, performed the destructive dance of Tandav and wreaked havoc on the universe. Sati's death marked a significant loss for Shiva, and though she was later reborn as Parvati, the pain of losing Sati left a deep scar. Parvati eventually won Shiva's love and became his consort, but the tragic end of Sati's life cast a shadow on the union. Even in the divine love, the themes of loss, separation, and the cycles of birth and rebirth play a central role. The love stories of Ram, Krishna, and Shiva highlight that even divine beings are not exempt from the trials and tribulations of love. The relationships transcend the ordinary fairy tale like understanding of happily ever after. Ram prioritized his duty as a king over his personal happiness. Krishna and Radha's bond remained spiritual and eternal despite their separation. And Shiva's deep love for Sati was marked by grief and eventual reunion in a new form. Love, I believe, should not be about consummation or possession, as is seen in all these three stories. The love that we experience is often marred in selfish desires of our ego. Love should also be liberating. It should never be a chain that binds us, but it should be a pair of wings that helps us fly. We love ourselves more than we love our soulmate. I would like to quote a verse from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that encapsulates the idea of love thoroughly. It is not for the sake or necessity of the husband that he is loved by the wife, but it is for one's own sake that he is loved by her, and vice versa. Likewise, it is not for the sake of the sons, wealth, the Brahman, the Kshatriya, the worlds, the gods, the beings, and all. Therefore, our love for other subjects is secondary, since they contribute to the pleasure of the self. And our love for the self alone is primary. Therefore, the self is the only worth of realization, or should be made the object of realization. It should first be heard of from a teacher and from the scriptures, then reflected on through reasoning, and then steadfastly meditated upon. Thus, only is it realized when these means, that is, hearing, reflection, and meditation, have been gone through. When these three are combined, then only true realization of the unity of Brahman is accomplished. There are many similar concepts between Indian and Western philosophies, especially ancient Greek ones. In the past few years, Stoicism has taken the internet by storm. Stoicism used to be like the secret handshake of hipsters. Oh, you haven't read the meditations yet. But now, it's like, did you even suffer if you did not post on Instagram using Marcus Aurelius' photo and some adulterated quote? That said, Stoicism has several similarities with the Hindu concept of Karma Yoga and the Bhagavad Gita in general. Stoicism, founded by Zeno of Citium, advocates for inner peace through detachment from external events. Further, Marcus Aurelius says, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advises Arjun, you have the right to perform your duty, but not to the fruits of the action. Stoics believe in accepting fate with equanimity, aligning with the Gita's teaching that one should accept life's outcome as a part of the divine plan. The Gita emphasizes fulfilling one's dharma or duty without selfish motives, contributing to the greater good. Stoicism's concept of logos, which is universal reason, parallels the Gita's notion of dharma, both serving as guiding principles for ethical living. And Stoics emphasize virtue as the highest good, focusing on wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance as the keys to living in accordance with nature and society. This is akin to the Gita's emphasis on living virtuously according to one's dharma. Several stories and themes in Indian and Greek culture overlap, showcasing universal ideas about life, the divine, and human nature. Here are some notable examples. Let's start with the Ramayana. Ram's wife Sita is captured by Ravan in a different country. Ram crosses the ocean and fights with Ravan to reunite with Sita. And what is the Iliad all about? Helen is taken to Troy by the prince Paris, in this case willingly, and all the Greek kingdoms unite and fight against the Trojans. A war between nations over a wife is the common theme, with multiple heroes on each side and even gods partaking in the war. Consider Achilles, the greatest warrior on the Greek side. He was almost invincible. Almost because when he was a child, his mother, the sea nymph Thetis, dipped him into the river Styx, which was believed to make him invincible to anyone who touched its waters. However, she held the baby Achilles by his heel, leaving that part of his body untouched by the water and thus vulnerable. As a result, while Achilles became a great warrior known for his strength and bravery, he had one significant weakness: his heel. This became particularly relevant during the Trojan War, where Achilles fought bravely but ultimately met his fate due to this vulnerability. He was struck in the heel by an arrow shot by Paris, guided by the god Apollo, leading to his death. In the Mahabharata war, before Duryodhan's epic face-off with Bhim, he was granted a similar boon. You see, Duryodhan's mother was Gandhari, who after her marriage with the blind king Dhritarashtra, lived the rest of her life with a blindfold. Her reasoning being she needed to share the fate of her blind husband. This penance gave her a special power. Once in her lifetime, she could remove the blindfold, and the first person she would lay her eyes on would make him invulnerable. She asked her son Duryodhan to stand in front of him naked, as that special power would cover his entire body when she removed the blindfold. But Duryodhan, tricked by Lord Krishna, was ashamed to stand entirely naked in front of his mother, and thus covered his middle part with a towel. When Gandhari opened her eyes and bestowed the invincibility power, She covered Duryodhan's entire body except his thighs, which were covered in a towel. Later, in his duel with Bhim, Duryodhan was defeated by being struck on his weak point, that is, the thighs. In fact, the earlier Vedic holy trinity of Indra, Varun, and Agni share similar traits as Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, the god of the heavens, god of the seas, and the god of fire or underworld. The traits of various demigods and characters in Hindu Itihas are strikingly similar. The duel between Hector and Achilles and their personalities is somewhat similar to the epic rivalry of Karan and Arjun. Bhim's likeness to the mighty Ajax, Odysseus guided by the goddess of wisdom, is similar to Arjun being guided by Krishna, and so on. Even Plato's theory of forms posits that the material world is a shadow of a higher unchanging reality. This mirrors the Bhagavad Gita idea from the Upanishads that the phenomenal world is an illusion or Maya and that ultimate reality lies beyond our sensory perception. Plato's allegory of the cave, where prisoners mistake shadows for reality, is similar to people mistaking the material world for ultimate reality due to ignorance or avidya. In fact, the idea of Kashmir Shaivism is Shiva is the light while the universe is just a reflection of him. This is in essence the allegory of the cave. Even Neoplatonism, which is monist by nature, is very much like the concepts of Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism, the non-dual schools of Hindu philosophy. While both monism and non-dualism emphasize the interconnectedness of all things, monism tends to focus on the idea that everything originates from a single substance, whereas non-dualism emphasizes the illusory nature of dualities and the direct experience of unity with the divine. Even Pythagoras' belief and the concept of samsara share similarities in their views on the soul's journey. Emphasizing reincarnation, Pythagoras believed in the immortality of the soul, where the soul transmigrates between bodies until it achieves enlightenment through philosophical study and ethical living. Similarly, samsara refers to the continuous cycle of birth, death influenced by karma, with the ultimate goal of liberation. Aristotle's logic and the Nyaya logic are both systems of reasoning that help us understand how to make arguments and arrive at conclusions, but they come from different cultural and philosophical traditions. They both share the goal of seeking truth through logical reasoning but approach it from slightly different angles. And Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia parallels the Hindu concept of purushartha. It's the ultimate flourishing of a human life, of one's soul. Aristotle's idea of the golden mean, the virtuous balance between extremes, is similar to the Hindu and Buddhist principle of the middle path, avoiding both excess and deficiency in behavior or consumption. Socrates famously stated, "An unexamined life is not worth living," and believed that self-knowledge is the foundation of wisdom. Through dialogue and questioning, he sought to reveal people's assumption and guide them towards greater understanding. Similarly, the pursuit of self-knowledge or Atma Vichar is a central theme in the Upanishads. Knowing the Atman leads to moksha. And now let's talk about Diogenes of Sinope, who was a prominent figure in the philosophical school of Cynicism. Known for his ascetic lifestyle and sharp wit, he had no material possessions. He lived on the fringes of the society, went without a bath for days, masturbated in public, and did not care about the world. A common legend is that once Alexander the Great, after listening to tales about Diogenes, wanted to meet him. As he waited for Diogenes to wake up from his deep slumber, Diogenes told Alexander, "Move away, you are blocking the sunlight for me." And when you look at all the Aghoris sadhus and the Naga sadhus in the Indian religious places, you cannot but see the same traits of Diogenes. Both Diogenes and the Aghoris and the Naga sadhus embody a profound disdain for material possessions and societal conventions. Diogenes famously lived in a large ceramic jar and owned very little, advocating for a life devoid of unnecessary luxuries. Similarly, Aghori and Naga sadhus often renounce worldly possessions, choosing instead to live in extreme conditions. Naga sadhus also practice severe austerities, including nudity and extreme detachment, to transcend societal norms and attain spiritual enlightenment. In essence, they represent radical pathways to spiritual truth, emphasizing authenticity, asceticism, and a rejection of societal constraints. All these vast similarities between Indian, Greek, and other Western philosophies does not necessarily mean that one was inspired from the other. I think the basis of religion across the world is the same. The psychology of humans across the world is the same. And it is so beautiful and astounding that since thousands of years, people in different parts of the world come up with similar stories, have similar ideas, faiths, and even act in more or less the same way. Maybe, just maybe, we all are that. The Chiranjeevis are immortal beings in Hinduism who are believed to be alive since ancient times and are destined to live until the end of the current cosmic cycle. Now, immortal is a term only used in Bhurlok or in our realm of earth. Sometimes our world is also known as Mrityulok or the realm of death. Those souls who transcend our realm and move on to higher realms do not have to suffer death, although their karmas might make them take birth on earth again. Anyway, back to the Chiranjeevis. Traditionally, there are 7 Chiranjeevis, but some texts mention 8. First one and the most famous one being Ashwatthama, who is the son of Dronacharya from the Mahabharata. He fought on the side of the Kauravas against the Pandavas. In fact, there are several instances in the Mahabharata where Ashwatthama tells Duryodhan and Karna and Shakuni that all this planning and plotting for the throne is useless. It was only after his father's death during the war and the subsequent death of Duryodhan that Ashwatthama's character arc changes completely. Just before his death, Duryodhan asks Ashwatthama to kill the Pandavas. And in the dark of the night, Ashwatthama sneaked into the Pandav camp and killed 5 men in their sleep. It was only the next morning that he realized they weren't the Pandavas but their sons. In an attempt to end the lineage of the Pandavas, he then proceeds to fire the Brahmastra and kill the unborn son of Abhimanyu or the grandson of Arjun. Krishna then saves the pregnant Uttara and her unborn child from the effects of the Brahmastra, but he curses Ashwatthama with immortality, taking away the gem on his forehead, which was the source of his power. He was cursed to roam in the forests for thousands of years, with blood and pus oozing out of his injuries and with no one to talk to. Bali, the demon king or Asur, also known as Mahabali, was a benevolent ruler who had conquered the 3 worlds and defeated Indra and the Devatas. However, in order to save the Devatas from complete annihilation and restore the balance between the Devas and the Asurs, Vishnu, in his dwarf or Vaman avatar, took 3 giant strides and regained the heaven and earth. Bali was sent to Sutal, the 3rd realm of the underworld, and made an immortal, also granting him the boon to visit earth regularly. People in South India celebrate Onam as a welcome to him. He was one of the few good Asurs. His realm is a realm of comfort and luxury. But then why is it in the Patal Lok or in the hell, and why not in the heavens? Because you see, comfort itself can be so addictive that it hinders one's spiritual progress, and hence comfort in the Patal Lok is seen as a hindrance rather than as a luxury. Vyas, popularly known as Ved Vyas or the author of the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, is the 3rd immortal. The word Vyas refers to compiler or arranger, and it also means to split and differentiate. It's a title given to a holy sage or a learned man. Swami Vivekananda expresses the opinion that Vyas may not have been a single person, but a lineage of sages who were content to simply develop the ideas without claiming credit, as they were free from the desire for the results of their work, and hence attributed the authorship to Vyas. Much like the idea that Shakespeare was not just one person, but a lineage of authors or a group of people or a company with many like minded people. The role of Vyas is to split the Vedas. It's believed that originally there was only one Veda, but later they were split and simplified with the passage of each yuga and their cycles in order for humanity to better understand it. After the current Mahayuga, Ashwatthama will become a great saint and take over the role of Vyas, further splitting the Vedas. It's like the update of an app which makes user interface better, sleeker and more modern for the people to consume and understand. The fourth immortal is Hanuman from the Ramayana. He is known for his strength, courage and devotion. Every time a Vishnu avatar appears on earth, Hanuman is always ready to serve him. Even in the Mahabharata war, Hanuman's sigil was used by Arjun and Krishna. And there are several legends with respect to Hanuman which we'll talk about in a moment. The fifth one is Vibhishan, who was the brother of Ravan in the Ramayana. Vibhishan, before the final war, told Ravan several times about his bad karma. Ravan, choosing to ignore his brother, Vibhishan finally decided to join Ram's side during the war. He was granted immortality for his righteousness and loyalty to Dharma, ignoring his familial duties. Vibhishan has since stayed on earth and guided people to the path of truth and Dharma in his own capacity. The sixth immortal is Kripacharya, again from the Mahabharata, who was a revered teacher and warrior, and he was a part of the Kuru dynasty and survived the Kurukshetra war. The Vishnu Puran states that Kripa was given immortality for his discipline. He served Dhritarashtra. In the Mahabharata war, he fought for the Kauravas. After the Mahabharata war, he was the counsel of Yudhishthir, and after Yudhishthir, his successor Parikshit also chose Kripacharya as his counsel. He is slated to become one of the Sapta Rishis, or the seven most revered sages in the next cosmic cycle. The seventh immortal is the sixth avatar of Lord Vishnu, Parshuram, who is known for his axe and warrior-like skills. He is a Brahmin who fought against the power-hungry Kshatriyas. Shiva advised him to go and liberate the earth from ill-behaved people, extremists, demons, and those blind with pride. The eighth Chiranjeevi, in some texts, which is not always included, is Sage Markandeya. He was granted immortality after he was saved from death by Lord Shiva when he was destined to die at a young age. The legend of the Chiranjeevis, or the seven immortals, is that they are all waiting for the end of the current Mahayuga, or the cycle of 4 yugas. At the end of the current final Kali Yuga, evil in the form of Kali, which is not to be confused with goddess Kali, will take over the world. Evil will hit its peak. Adharma will be the norm. At that moment, Vishnu in his 10th and final avatar will appear as Kalki. In the battle of good versus evil, Kalki will be supported by all the 7 Chiranjeevis. Ashwatthama will redeem himself by supporting an avatar of Vishnu. Parshuram will be the guru of Kalki, and other immortals will have their own roles to play in this epic Leela of good versus evil. Speaking of these immortals, there are several legends or urban legends associated with not just them, but various other characters as well. Much like the legend of Bigfoot in the US, there are several legends associated with the people in the Himalayas who have sighted a giant ape-like creature known as Yeti. Gradually, these sightings were later linked to Hanuman. Now, the issue here is that Hanuman was clearly not an ape. He is known as Kapishwar, which translates to the monkey god. Monkeys have tails. They are not apes, which the Yeti is believed to be. In the legend of Ramayana itself, Hanuman uses his tail to set fire to Lanka. So he clearly is a monkey and not an ape. But another thing to be noted is that Hanuman is blessed with 8 siddhis and 9 nidhis by Sita. Now these 8 siddhis or 8 superpowers allow Hanuman to change his shape, size, weight and basically transform into any form he chooses to be. So maybe going by the legend, he can transform into a human or an ape form and not necessarily live in the body of a monkey for eternity. Then there are several places across India and Sri Lanka which have these giant footprints, which are believed to be the footsteps of Hanuman himself. Practically speaking, looking at these footprints in perfect shape and size, one must wonder when did the Ramayana occur? Let's say any time between 7 to 10,000 years back. Technically, a footprint thousands of years old cannot be in this perfect condition. If a giant foot was even to fall on these rocks, the area around it should be cracked. Also, there are distinct irregularities in the size and shape of each circular depression in different places. But we can still sweep that under the carpet considering Hanuman's capability of changing his size and shape. But simple Nyaya logic would tell you that a rocky surface makes it impossible to leave such impressions. These are clearly carved some 100 years ago. These are just urban legends that have been carried forward. But what's so beautiful about this is that every village, town, and city, and every family and lineage around the subcontinent wishes to link itself to the Itihas of Ramayana and Hinduism. There's another legend, again related to Hanuman. In fact, I would say most of the urban legends are related to Hanuman chiefly due to his immortal status. Deep within the untouched jungles of Sri Lanka, the Mathang tribe, the descendants of Ravan's brother Vibhishan, who is again another immortal, live in isolation, far from the modern civilization. They hold a deep ancient connection to Lord Hanuman, who is regarded as their guardian deity. Every 41 years, Hanuman visits the tribe to impart divine wisdom or Brahmagyan, maintaining a tradition that dates back to the time of Ramayana. The Mathangs honor this mystical encounter with the Charan Puja and Sakshat Hanuman Puja. They gather in a hidden cavern, forming a Hanumandal, a massive circle of wheat flour surrounded by flickering oil lamps. Only a select few who have undergone a year of rigorous penance are permitted to guard this secret circle. Inside, they wait for the moment when Hanuman supposedly appears. During his visit, it is believed that Hanuman's divine presence can be felt within the circle, and the tribe's headman receives the deity's messages. These communications, although invisible to the rest, are recorded meticulously in a logbook kept by the tribe, capturing the god's presence and advice. The Mathang speaks of these encounters as if they are chatting with an old friend. The last recorded visit was in 2014, with the next expected being in 2055. The Mathangs believe their territory is none other than the Ashok Vatika, where Sita was held captive by Ravan. Attempts to modernize or develop this secluded land have consistently failed, often thwarted by natural calamities, tsunamis, and floods. The Mathangs believe it is Hanuman himself protecting his beloved territory. Recently, a religious academic group called Setu Asia is translating the Mathangs' revered logbook, hoping to bridge the ancient wisdom of Hanuman with modern devotees. For the tribe, this mysterious, timeless bond with Hanuman is more than a story. It's a testament to the enduring power of faith, which is beyond the reach of time and civilization. We have already explored the 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu, who incarnates in the world whenever there is an imbalance between good and evil to restore cosmic order. These incarnations, or the Dash avatars, reflect a fascinating sequence that is believed to mirror the evolution of life on Earth, echoing Darwinian theories in a religious framework. Matsya avatar, or the fish, is Vishnu's first avatar. Symbolically, this represents the emergence of life in water. The second avatar is an amphibian tortoise who supports Mount Mandar on his back during the churning of the ocean. Kurma represents the transition from water to land, much like the early amphibians that could survive in both environments. In the Varha avatar, Vishnu becomes a mighty boar that rescues Earth from the demon Hiranyaksh. Varha symbolizes the rise of land-dwelling mammals, akin to the next stage of evolution. The Narsimha avatar, which is half human, half lion, is an amalgamation of animal and human qualities, depicting the evolution from primal creatures to more complex beings with humanoid traits. This could simply be a more physically powerful early form of Neanderthals. In fact, many scholars believe that Vanar, which is the term used for Hanuman and other monkey like creatures in the Ramayana, were not actually monkeys or even apes. Vanar means one and nar, which means a forest man. So these could have been any being with more physical power than a common sapien. In Yuval Noah Harari's famous book The Sapiens, he states that sapiens weren't the only species on earth. There were Neanderthals, Homo erectus, Homo denisova, Homo habilis, and Homo naledi. So, Narasimha could represent any of these fierce and powerful species. And who knows, the same applies for the Vanar army in the Ramayana as well. Vamana is the dwarf, which marks the advent of early humans. Small in stature but full of potential. He subdues the demon king Bali with his wit and strategy. Just as we spoke about the different species of humans, there was this species called Homo floresiensis, often referred to as the hobbits. They were a fascinating species of the genus Homo that primarily lived in modern day Indonesia. They existed until about 50,000 years ago, which means they coexisted with modern humans for some time. The most striking feature, which you might have guessed, is their small size, standing at about 3.5 feet tall. And they showed signs of relatively advanced behavior such as tool use as well. So, if the Darwinian model is to fit in the Dash avatars, Vaman represents the different species of humans, especially the hobbits, considering its size of 3.5 feet tall. Then there's Parshuram, who was a fierce warrior with an axe, who represents the humans' beginning of the use of tools and weapons according to their environment. Ram is considered the ideal man, who signifies the establishment of societal order, ethics, and duty. Krishna is the divine statesman, known for his strategic brilliance and role in the Mahabharata, representing the development of diplomacy, wisdom, and complex understanding of life's philosophy. Buddha, the enlightened one, in many interpretations, marks a shift towards non-violence, compassion, and the importance of self-realization. The final avatar yet to arrive is Kalki, who is prophesied to appear at the end of the Kali Yuga. So what is the next step in the human evolution? Android, humanoid, AI. The possibilities present a fascinating and perhaps equally dreadful future. The Dash avatar and the sequence mirrors a Darwinian timeline, yet it transcends biology by embedding deeper metaphysical and spiritual meanings into each stage. Nietzsche, the celebrated German philosopher, has this theory of eternal return or eternal reoccurrence, suggesting that all events in the universe repeat themselves infinitely in a cyclical manner. You will experience this moment in the exact same way again. You have always experienced it. You have watched this video in the previous cycles as well, and you will continue to do it in the future cycles, forever. Every joy you experienced, every moment of despair, grief, ecstasy, all of them, you have already lived earlier and will continue doing so endlessly. I have explored this idea further in my video about living in a loop. Anyway, Nietzsche's theory, which made him the darling of the intellectuals, isn't the first time someone came up with it. Hindus, since time immemorial, have been doing parikrama, and contrary to the scientific belief of the start and possible end of time, Hinduism posits that time and our universe are cyclical, known as Kal Chakra, the wheel of time. Take the story of Kakbhushandi, a mystical crow from the Ramayana and other books such as Yoga Vasishtha. A time-traveling crow who sits beyond the arrow of time as we know it. He claims to have witnessed the events of Ramayana 11 times and the Mahabharata 16 times. Perhaps this is the source of inspiration for George R.R. Martin's much disliked Three-Eyed Raven.
And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
Now, sources differ on the results of the war. Some say each time the war had different results, but others refuse to believe Ram or Krishna in the avatars of the Supreme Being himself, and fighting for Dharma can be defeated by Adharma. Good may take time, but it cannot be defeated. And I personally do not see different results playing out in each version, because there is another story in the same text that points out a moment playing out the exact same way each time. After the events of the Ramayana, when Ram Rajya was established, everything was going right, and the Devtas felt that it was time for Vishnu in his Ram avatar to leave the mortal world and return back to his abode. They approached Yamraj, the god of death, who tried many times to escort Lord Ram, but was unable to do so because Hanuman guarded Ram's life vigilantly. Ram understood the problem Yamraj was facing and decided to trick Hanuman. Ram dropped his ring, which fell into a crack in the floor. Ram then asked Hanuman to go and fetch the ring. Hanuman, who could change his large body into as small as a fly, jumped into the crack. He followed the crack until he reached Patal Lok, the lowest realm. When he reached Patal Lok, he was greeted by the king of snakes, Vasuki. Vasuki asked Hanuman what he was looking for, and Hanuman replied that he was looking for Ram's ring. Vasuki then led Hanuman to a room full of rings and asked him to take any of them. Hanuman was surprised and asked, "How can there be so many rings?" Vasuki replied, "Each ring represents one Kal Chakra. In every Kal Chakra, there is a Treta Yuga in which there is Ram and Hanuman. Every time Ram will drop his ring, and Hanuman will come to Patal Lok searching for his ring. And by the time Hanuman returns to earth, Ram is gone." Hanuman then understood the Kal Chakra and let go of his dear Lord Ram, understanding the eternal cycle of time and reoccurrence. While there are striking similarities between Nietzsche's eternal return and the Hindu cyclical time, there is a crucial difference. Nietzsche, coming from a Western perspective, did not factor in reincarnation. In his view, it is the same you experiencing the same life over and over. Hindu philosophy, on the other hand, incorporates reincarnation into its cyclical worldview. It's not just one life on repeat, but countless lives across various forms and species, all playing out in a grand cosmic drama that repeats eternally. To use a modern analogy, Nietzsche's theory is like being forced to watch the same movie repeatedly for eternity. The Hindu concept is more like having a vast streaming library of your multiple lifetimes in various forms. One moment it's the bee movie, then it is the ants, then you're the Lion King, and eventually the several movies in human forms, all part of the same cinematic universe, playing out in the same order forever. Whether you find these ideas comforting, terrifying, or simply fascinating, they invite us to ponder our place in the vast tapestry of existence. In a universe of endless repetition, how will you choose to live this moment? Mount Kailash, or known as Mount Kailash or Kailasa, nestled in the Himalayas, is shrouded in mystery and revered across Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Tibetan born. Believed to be the earthly abode of Lord Shiva, its peak is considered a spiritual axis connecting earth to the divine. Numerous mountaineers have tried to climb it, but strange weather patterns and spiritual beliefs prevent successful ascents. Time anomalies also abound around the mountain. Some claim that aging accelerates in its vicinity, with travelers' hair and nails growing unusually fast. Such reports add to the belief that time flows differently near Kailash. A geometric marvel, Mount Kailash resembles a man-made pyramid, with its four faces aligned in cardinal directions. Adding to the mystique is Lake Mansarovar, a pristine body of water considered a spiritual purifier. Legend has it that bathing in its water can cleanse a person of lifetimes of sins. Nearby, the smaller Rakshasthal, also known as the Lake of Demons, creates a duality that mirrors the light and dark elements of the universe. Mount Kailash is also said to hold connections to ancient myths of hidden realms like Shambhala, a mystical kingdom described in Tibetan Buddhism as well. Some believe the mountain is a gateway to this spiritual utopia, a hidden world untouched by time. The mountain's energy is so potent that it's thought to alter consciousness, allowing some to experience visions or deep meditative trance. Stories even circulate about pilgrims encountering divine apparitions, with experiences ranging from sudden epiphanies to bizarre physical phenomena like unexplained marks on the body suddenly appearing. The lore surrounding Mount Kailash extends to the claim of advanced civilizations. This theory, although fringe, adds to the enigmatic aura of Kailash. Lastly, for those into psychedelics, there are entire subreddits and pages on the internet which talk about people on various substances having a divine Hindu experience. And I say Hindu because these people, most of them from the West, with no prior exposure to the Hindu culture, describe encountering divine beings during altered states. Each has a common theme of meeting a hazy figure, sometimes male, sometimes female, who had multiple hands and with either deep blue or pitch black skin. While I don't advocate using substances to seek metaphysical or divine experiences, these accounts are undeniably intriguing. And that wraps up our Hinduism Iceberg series. But really, it's just the beginning. Hinduism is so vast that no matter how many stories we discuss or concepts we explore, there's always more to learn. Some ideas take lifetimes to grasp, others just a few days. Think of this series as a starting point for your spiritual journey. In the past 10 years or so, there's been a renewed interest in Sanatan Dharma. More people are curious about our history and culture, which is great to see. As you explore this path, remember that Hinduism is uniquely inclusive. There's a place for everyone here. We are polytheists with our godly multitudes, monotheists with one big cosmic reality, call it Brahman, Shiv, or any of its names. We are non-dualists, monists, and pantheists, seeing the divine in everything from mountains to molehills. We are feminists with an equal reverence to our mother goddess. We are Unitarians in our oneness of Shiva and Shakti. We have got mainstream beliefs rubbing shoulders with esoteric cultures, like a spiritual potluck where every dish somehow works together. We are the seed of spirituality and mysticism. We have 100 folk cultures, 1,000 Kul Devtas, all blending into one rich tradition. Making this video was a joy for me. I've included links below for those who want to dig deeper into various Hindu philosophies. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing or checking out my Patreon as well. This project has changed many of my own beliefs, sparking a desire to learn more about India's diverse philosophical traditions. I hope it does the same for you. Thanks for sticking by till the end, you beautiful, curious souls.